What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode.
This is deep dish, right?
Yeah, well, let's get deep.
So I'm going deep on both sides.
Lamont Lester, how you doing? Welcome to the platform.
Oh man, thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here, my brother. Pleasure.
Now, I gotta give a shout out to Mr. Fred Bailey for connecting us.
Yes, yes, the great Fred Bailey.
The great Fred Bailey,
yes,
for sure.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm really interested to get into your story, your work, your process, your journey, and I did my research on you, so I got a lot of questions.
Okay.
For you, for your work. But just to start off, give a little something about your background, where you're from.
Okay.
Just not the whole story,
right,
but just abbreviated version to get it started, and just give people, preface people right into the work that you do.
Wonderful. My name is Lamont Lester. I'm a Nashville native. Been here. I just turned 52 in October. I'll be 53 this year. Born and raised, and actually the work that I do, we do quite a few things, but probably my heart and my passion is definitely towards working with men, young boys, really helping people find their purpose is really a lot of the work that we do through different methods. And then also from a racial reconciliation component, in 2003, we put together a clothing line called Kinfolk, which really kind of talked about us being family, and it was actually designed to break down racial barriers, denominational barriers, and just these walls, and just kind of say, hey, it's a Christian line. I'm a Christian. Over the years, became a Christian, and but with it, it was just kind of, there's a verse of scripture, Genesis 12, 2 and 3, that kind of, God made a covenant with Abraham, and the bottom line is, kinfolk are persons that share common ancestry, family, relatives, or kin. So if Abraham is your uncle and he's my uncle, we're kinfolk, Mm-hmm. So it was just really to kind of do that, and that is really kind of where the work with racial reconciliation began, just needing, just being conscious of that, hey, we need everybody in the game, all kind of to be a part of this game called life. Everybody needs skin in the game, and really just trying to see, hey, how can we bridge these barriers, bring unity and family, and but those are my passions, and things kind of branched out from there.
And so, what inspired you, right? What was that kind of catalyst for you, or did you know that this will be the work that you will always do as an adolescent?
Right. One of the things growing up, I think that over the years, I kind of found out, Jerome, that you found out you got leadership ability. I didn't know it at the time. Even in my high school years, you can kind of, consider yourself being a Nashville native, can be kind of consider yourself as popular, I guess, and
right,
able to really. We started through groups in high school and through my adolescence, Look, shout out to SoFi and my boys from John Overton High School and Trump. We did a couple of things with that, but able to really get people together and buy in from young, even then. And when I was maybe 25, probably 30 years ago, when I got myself together and started going to church, trying to, when I saw that stuff wasn't working for me, I came into the church, and with it, as a matter of fact, it was Demetrius Alexander and C.C. Winans. They were actually running a program called My Sister's Keeper, and it's still going and whatnot. And they were like, man, you pretty good and like being around the guys. And they said, have you ever thought about doing anything with men? And I was just like, no, not really, but they planted that seed. And from there, we started my program called My Brother's Keeper, and we started a mentoring program when I was 26 years old at a born-again church, and that's when that work began. And then just as far as the racial reconciliation piece, when I came into, became a Christian and just realizing that, it was about unity and family and whatnot, I wanted to start a clothing line, and I was like, this would be kind of cool for the boys in the hood to kind of wear a jersey. So the first 4 pieces we had was a jersey, and it had kinfolk, and it kind of talked about that. But I wanted, my whole tagline then was to allow young men to really represent Christ while making a cutting edge fashion statement is what, kinfolk. So those jerseys, people kind of say, "What is kinfolk?" And oh man, we're trying to break down barriers, and they
Right.
were just like, so we were in the mall, and I remember Rivergate Mall. We had a store there, and churches would come through and be like, "Man, this is a strong message." So it was really a plan that I didn't really intentionally do, but these are
Right.
things that along the course that I found myself doing, and it just had no idea that it would end up to be the things that it is today.
Oh, well, we got to break all this down.
Oh wow, okay. Don't want to give you too much on the front end.
No, we got to break all this down now. No, because you gave us a lot, but you gave us enough where I think where we can really pivot into the conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think I want to dive into. I think this is the biggest one I want to dive into. Is that Christianity, that Christ piece with the racial piece.
And the racial piece.
Yeah, and the racial piece.
Yeah.
And how that works, because from my experience in church, depending on what church you go to, and
Right,
depending on
right.
your religious lens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Race is something people don't want to get into.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the church struggles with
Yeah,
it.
the church struggles with race, and it's like, oh no, we all love Jesus and
Right.
God, and we, So
Yeah.
so what has been your experience with the two? In the work that you've been able to do thus far, and what has been some of those challenges and successes?
Okay. Well, what I would say is, and I agree totally. They say that Sunday is the most segregated day of the week. And it is and has been. But I come from a lens of what I found out through my 52 years is that my philosophy is that there's going to be a percentage of bad in every office or demographic in the world. So you got so there may be we talk about black people. You got bad black people. You got bad white people.
Right.
You got bad pastors. You got bad fathers. You got bad police officers.
Right.
So there's going to be a percentage in anything that you look at of things that actually aren't working perfectly or we could do better.
Right.
So I say that to say that even when I looked at the racial component, one of the things that I just had to be real with myself is I said a lot of times, even growing up, a lot of times when you get into those things and we kind of see some of the things that we're seeing in society now, if I'm really truthful with myself, a lot of the things that really could have probably hindered me and knocked me off my square even as a youth it wasn't a white man calling me a nigga.
Right.
A lot of times it was the boys in the hood or people in the hood tearing me down, your hair or
Right.
coming up a dark-skinned brother, what I'm
Right.
saying? Those things. And you the black jokes,
Right.
all this stuff. And these were things that really, it's different when other people outside your home say something to you. But when somebody in your house wounds you, So we deal
Right.
with a lot of that when I work with my youth today in the African-American community. I kind of talk about our words and how we, and not to even we can go on the crabs in the barrel, how we have really done some things to ourselves that the
Right.
white man ain't got nothing to do with.
Right.
So consequently, with that, with the clothing, and on the other hand, like I said, there's a lot of things that we got to fix that white people got to take responsibility for.
Right. So let me
Okay,
put
go
this
ahead.
out here.
Okay, all right.
Because there's going to be people that say, well, yes, there's some things that we have to work internally with in our community.
Absolutely.
Right. However,
Yes.
However-
there is a however.
the residual effects of white supremacy
Absolutely.
is why, right, that trauma, the oppression, that self-hate, right, that I think you're describing,
Absolutely.
is the sole reason why that we have this crabs in the barrel mentality, why we knock each other down.
Yes.
Why it's easier for us to go against each other, because like, hey, that's what we've been indoctrinated with, right?
Absolutely.
And so how do we combat that when we're talking about these things? And so a lot of people, it's easy to look inside, like, man, we got to do better.
Yeah.
But like, well, the core is really like, this white supremacy over here is indoctrinated us, and the white supremacy people, it has white in there, so it think it only applies to white folks. Like, now black folks can have white supremacy mannerisms too, because it's an indoctrination.
Absolutely.
I can hate you, you can hate me. That's an indoctrination and a learned behavior through white supremacy, I would say.
Absolutely.
And so what would you say to those folks that say, well, we need to be combating that, and yeah, we might have our disagreements, but we just the product
Absolutely.
of that.
I think that it's a two-pronged fight. You know, I think that we do have to fight those. The white supremacy is real. The things that have been done in history and continue, even not just history, but even today, as we see systemic racism and how
Right.
we're able to have to do everything 3, 10, 100 times better just to even have a play in. To be on even, there's not an even playing field. Yes, you bring up valid points. There is no way. The truth of the matter is, there have been some ugly, horrible things that have been done to our people that have completely created mindsets for us that we have definitely have challenged to this day that we to get on the other side of. And that's one of the things that really, the reality of the matter is that we have a thing in our Harmony Coalition. We have a nonprofit called Harmony Coalition, to where we've actually partnered with some of our white brothers and sisters, allies as they're called. And the reality of the matter is, I share with them quite candidly that we are at a place in history where really some of the things that need to be said and need to be done, the truth of the matter is we can actually control what we can control on our end. You know, we got some stuff that we got to deal with in our communities.
Right.
But we deal with what we call ugly truths. And the truth of the matter is we got some ugly truths, some stuff that we got to clean up. But the truth of the matter is you guys got some ugly truths on your side as well. You know,
Right.
some of the horrific things that you have just done to people that are, to our people,
Right.
that are inhumane, you gotta take that.
What,
you know.
what are specifically, what are like white folks' responses to that in those sessions, in those?
Oh man, it's tense. You know, there have been tense, like I said, but we actually take it from an education perspective to where the people that have come on board with this movement, they have chosen to educate themselves. They've chosen to put themselves in the line of fire. They've chosen to put themselves in conversations that, you know, these hurtful truths, yeah, this is your people.
Right.
You did this, and you're responsible for this. Now, we
Right.
cannot go back and change history, but the reality of the matter is to where we are today, as I share with my group, I need you on the front lines.
Right.
Because if I go in and say, well, hey, you know, we need to do A, B, and C, I'm the angry black man.
Right, exactly.
You know, so the things that need to be said, this banner that needs to be carried, it needs to be carried by you speaking. You need to, so part of my job is
Call
to
it
go back,
out.
Yeah, let me go back and educate my people on some of the things that we need to work on.
Right.
You know, hey, how can I help young men? How can we do some of the concerns that we have? But you know, your responsibility is to go back into this white community and say, hey, you know what, man, there's a lot of stuff we didn't do right. There's some things we aren't doing now, and we got to do a whole lot better.
Right.
Because, and really and truthfully, in order to move the needle for a real movement, they got to stand up and be on the front lines, because we're never going to get a fair shake with this conversation.
Right.
As a black man.
Right.
You
No.
know?
Right. No, I agree, and I think that's real allyship. I think it's easy for me and you to call it out, right?
Yeah.
But it's different when our white allies or non-people of color allies call it out and say, "Hey, this is wrong." Like,
Absolutely.
or this is, or you're discriminating, or you being racist, or you practicing white supremacy against these folks. That's a different type of, that's a different type of message, different type of
Absolutely,
tone. And
Because the thing is, Jerome, they can't come in our communities and say, well, hey, when you need to pull your hand, you just need to pick yourself up by the bootstrap. You can't tell my black boys that, not in front of me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You can't tell my people. So consequently, I, as one who have, been through some things, hey, bro, hey, man, I know you're a young man
Right.
trying to find your way, but,
Right.
but if you're going to go in for an interview, you may want to do this.
Right.
That's not the conversation for you to have.
Right.
So by the same token, because it's not going to be received well.
Right.
But by the same token, this conversation that you need to have, you need to have it, because if I go, it's not going to be received well.
white people need to work on white people.
Yes.
That's
yes.
the best. I think that's where the best work is done for their community.
But you know what? It's hard, and that's kind of the things is what we're looking for with Harmony Coalition is what we call harmony seekers.
Okay.
We're looking for white people that want to do the work, because the truth of the matter is, you need some skin in the game, because you got to be on the front lines. Just like I'm gonna get slack for, hey man, let truth be told, me, but man, why you ain't with these white folks right now? You know what's going on?
Right.
You see what they doing?
Right.
But by the same token, that's me. Hey, I got some skin in the game to say and say, hey, all white people ain't the same.
Right.
Just like all black people. By the same token, you need to be
Right.
over there at that family dinner where you
Right.
know your racist uncle over there been cracking jokes for the past 10 years.
Call him out.
Call him out. You know what I'm saying? You need to say, hey, hold up. You need to get insulted for
Right.
a stance. You know?
Right.
So, but yeah, we gotta go back. So our tier with that is number one is dealing with our own core. It's 3 tiers. I got to deal with my own core, my own fears, my own securities. Let me work on me. Because first of
Right.
all, if my heart is not right, I can't do none of this.
Right.
So secondly, from there, then I got to learn to work with others. Let me work with people that aren't like me, part two, that are across the aisle, white folks, black folks, Indians, Asian, people that have different experiences and backgrounds. Okay, now I got to learn to work with people that just ain't black folks.
Right.
We got to do that.
Right.
And then the third tier is once we've worked, we've had these communications, we've educated ourselves, and we become better as an individual. Now I'm working in community. Now my job also goes back to let me go back and educate my community and strengthen them so that they can really have these conversations and grow in these areas that need to be grown in.
And so I'm gonna throw something at you,
Go with it. Let's roll.
because exposure is key.
Yes.
And once you get exposure to different communities, different experiences, your mindset should change. Should change, right? And then you start thinking different.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, just based on what you said, I know you thinking different. And based on my own experience too, I know you thinking different. Now, with that being said, what has been the challenges of being able to think different and have conversations with folks that people might not even want you to talk to? Might not even think, Lester shouldn't be over here talking to these folks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because of maybe just purely on the color of your skin or their skin.
Right.
But you seeing things different, you understanding community different, you understand that, hey, we might not agree on everything, but we still in community together, and we need to have a conversation because your exposure, your intentionality behind understanding different communities has went to a different mental maturity level.
Right.
What have those been experienced back? Has there been backlash? Has there been tension between your own community
Yes.
because you're having these conversations?
Yeah, it is backlash, man. You're gonna get backlash, but for me, going to my Christian roots or whatever, and you may be able to relate this a little bit, but I think that we all have to have a vision or a picture that's bigger than us. I think consequently we have really, when I say the church perspective, I think it's along the lines of, so I'm also dealing with church people too. So you would
Right.
think that church folk, this shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Hey, we got to help our community, black, white, old, young. It shouldn't even be a conversation. What does the
Right.
Bible say? Hey, go out to the earth and, make disciples and, to the highways and byways, and kind of share this message, this gospel message. Shouldn't be a problem. But what we have done, as opposed, we have not really made ourselves available to what I would call community. We have really, we have silos, we have, it's almost like a church mentality. When I say a church mentality, it's a different mentality from a church mentality versus a kingdom mentality.
Right.
So when you think about just a church, you think about just the individual, or not just a church, but let's
Right.
just say my skin color, my blackness, my
Right.
whiteness, my church, my affiliation. We put our affiliation and the image of those affiliations and what we become a part of bigger than the bigger picture.
Right.
So for me, I've actually kind of look along the lines of really it's going to take all of us as a whole to really fight this, to really rebuild what the enemy has taken. I'll give you another example. This is kind of my thinking too. As we see what's going on in Ukraine.
Right.
Ukraine is a country that's been attacked, that's been surrounded, and kind of some threats, this and that, or what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, one day, the enemy just said, I'm just going to decimate this thing.
Right.
But now we're looking at Ukraine, and it's along the lines of now he's reaching out to NATO, he's reaching out to Europe, reaching out to all of them, because the truth of the matter is this is a war, or the
Right.
enemy has raised a war on us to where this is going to affect everybody if we
Right.
don't come together.
Right.
It's no different between the natural and the spiritual. Same thing with people. The thing is, if we do not put barriers in place to where we looking out for this next generation,
Right.
if we are not discipling, raising them up, and getting
Right.
people to really take hold of our young black boys,
Right.
our young black males, the racial tension that's going on, if we don't get this thing together, that's why. So look at it. You look at how the enemy came in and just decimated Ukraine. Don't you see that as the same thing that's happened to us as a country, as a nation? Think of the church.
Right.
Even now, the church, when the enemy, we've been surrounded for a while.
Right.
It's been kind of like, hey, let's take prayer out of schools.
Right.
Let's take prayer out of this.
Right.
Well, you know what? Now we, every office that we had faith in, from the police officers to the government, to the politicians, to the church, everything, the enemy has really been chipping away at all this stuff to really put on a major attack.
Right.
So now the major attack happens, and now, and even to the institution of the church, the truth of the matter is, what did everybody do? Just like Ukraine, shoot, everybody left.
Right.
It's no different than what we're doing now. So people are going, and now we're at a place, even with the church, where people are wondering, am I even going back? It's just like Ukraine. Am I going to go back? When we look at this mess, what we have made because we did not have a plan, that we were not prepared for the George Floyd. We weren't prepared for the COVID. We weren't prepared for this great disperse.
Right.
There was nothing in place.
Right.
Now, who's going to come back and build this?
Right.
Who's going to come back and put Humpty back together again?
Right, exactly.
So when you think about the natural war and we're seeing it play out live when you see, man, these are major offenses. What white folks have done, major offenses.
Right.
What the police, some of the things that have gone on.
Right.
But we didn't say nothing then, So
Right.
I'm just a part of the building process to kind of say, hey, how can we put Ukraine? How can we put this community back together?
Right.
And I think it starts with courageous leadership and somebody just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to rebuild regardless. That's a lot of information, though. But
No, that's good information, though. And again, like you giving me some stuff to think about as we talking. And the biggest thing is that church part for me, that Christian part. I grew up Christian, I grew up Baptist. Temple Church is my family church.
Yep.
But I do not identify as a Christian today.
Okay.
I do not. I identify more spiritual than religious.
Absolutely. We're getting in the deep dish there.
Yeah, we're getting a deep dish now. And from this is from my own lived experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, believing in God. But I think it might even just be a generational thing too.
It is. That's the key.
Yeah, it might be a generation thing too. And so, but I understand the purpose.
Yes.
Of the Bible, the Quran, religion. I understand the purpose of all of it because I think it helps those who it helps.
It helps who helps.
It helps those who helps, and I believe it's purpose in all of those. But I think also on the flip side of that, and you do this work, right? Between denominations. I have seen, I feel like, when it comes to community power building or just addressing, social justice issues, religion get in the way sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because I'm Christian, or you may be Muslim, or because, you may be Seventh-day Adventist and I'm, Baptist or whatever. I've seen this in this lens that where religion should connect folks, or we find a way to separate. Absolutely. And say, well, no, we can't work together, we can't build together. Well, first off, we all black. They ain't creating these disparities because our denomination. Like we all being affected the same way, regardless. You would think, right? And so, what are your thoughts on, maybe religion pacifying some social justice issues and saying, hey, those that'll last shall be first. Right. Turn the other cheek.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that in trying to combat some of these social issues and social constructs that we face as human beings, because we all face with it on different levels.
Yes.
But I truly believe that we all affected by it, but even more specifically as black folks, where we know, we're the most affected and the most harmed.
Absolutely.
In this system here in the United States.
Yeah, we are. We're really at a really pivotal point when we talk about the church and where we are now. Because the truth of the matter is, you bring up a lot of valid points. The generations that I feel like I'm right in the middle of this transition. I'm from the old school when we were in church all day. We would tarry, we pray, we did sleep-ins, all that stuff. And that generation, we stayed in church, drugged to church. This I got a drug problem. Yeah, mama drugged me to church and she kept me at church.
Right.
So we stayed at church. But this generation that we come up now, they weren't brought up like that. So they don't understand those principles that this generation has.
Right.
But consequently, what we have done, this generation has done a bad part. And I'll say, now let me say this, I do feel that the church is the answer.
Okay.
You know, I feel that Jesus, you know, so
Okay.
I'm along the lines, I ain't pushing Jesus on you, but
Right.
Christianity on you. But I'm
Right.
telling you, I know that it changed a joker like me.
Right.
And you know, and that's miraculous within itself.
Right.
But I say that to say that we have really done a really good job of having church, especially the black church. We can have church, we have a good time, and we do all that, and do those things. But what we have not done a good job is really discipling and really bringing this next generation in and actually making them feel like they are part of something. So now you have a young generation that, because they saw some of the mistakes, they saw some of the things that they don't understand. We were very judgmental. You know, man, he got a tattoo. You know, she got her pants down. He smelled like we have all these things to where, you know what, you don't miss the mark. And consequently, we have turned a whole generation away to where they're like, you know what, I don't even fool with y'all no more. And I'm looking for other entities to be a part of to where I'm accepted.
Right.
So that actually falls on us. You know, even when I work with nonprofits, a lot of nonprofit work that I deal with, a lot of times it's the white, you know, it's been Belmont, you know, it's been Franktown, it's been YMCA or different ones. They are the white people that go into our communities and actually find ways to help our young black people. And so for me, even with Soldiers, Fred and Bailey and James Settles and some of the people, Lynn Stewart, we actually went on tour and we actually were going to black churches trying to recruit men to come out to say, hey man, we got a serious problem with this next generation. How can we be a part? But they were having church and it was like pulling teeth. They're like, it's cool, you can come in here and get us fired up, but they weren't coming outside them walls. So what happened is when everything shut down, you know, with COVID and everything, now you got a generation that do not trust that entity. So I say that to say the church being the answer, but we're going to have to really sit down and really figure out, how do we reach the Jerome Moores? How do we reach those that were brought up in church and has lost faith in us? You know, and part of it is like, you know what, I'm sorry. You know, we owe our communities an apology for some of this stuff that we as the men, as the Christians, as the you know, men of God, we could have done a lot more. You know, so now we got this grace dispersed, and people go to other entities. They go to the Nation of Islam. They go to 100 Black Men. They look at the Kappas, the Qs, the LGBT. You know, hey, where can I go to where I feel this? And that's an indictment on us because we didn't do our part. Okay. But as we move forward, that's why the work that I am involved in is realize that everybody has a place at the table. You know, it ain't no big eyes, little U's. We talk to these young boys. We take young people because they know how to preach. You know, they can hold it up for an hour and woo people, but we don't teach them how to build character. You know, we don't teach them how to keep their word. We don't keep them how to discipline and take time and spend time with a life, a young man, and help him go through his stuff. You know, so we have to, as we say, we saw what it was prior to. So just like Ukraine, you know, they're looking like, man, who's going to come build this up and what's it going to look like when it comes back? I asked the church the same question. When we rebuild this thing and people start coming back to church, because a lot of people ain't coming back to that. So consequently, how do we reach these people who have lost trust in us with the Word of God and Jesus Christ? How do we now adapt to this new type of warfare that we in and get young minds, bright minds like yourself and these gifts? Because the truth of the matter is, this generation is off the chain as far as their capabilities. And this old model don't even know what to do with them. So we have to figure out, man, how do we get these conversations with Jerome Moores and these skill sets and these, you know, these social media, you know, you saw stuff with people in high school in New York. I remember during the George Floyd thing, she ninth grade or whatever, you know, she messed around and got on that thing and she shut down all the schools and high schools in New York, you know, for a protest. And it's like, how do these young people do that? If we could get them on our side for the kingdom. Oh man, come on now. So we got some stuff. But anyway.
And I say this because growing up and just history, history, especially in movements, especially in the South.
Right.
You know, churches were always a pillar, a foundation for
Yes.
social justice movements.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if that's the case now, because there's a lot of folks that want to do work in the community. It may not want to dive into the religious piece, but want to build.
Yes.
And if churches will say, "Hey, we're trying to build. We might be doing it through the work of God, the work of Jesus, but we're trying to build." I think more people would be more receptive to that and say, "Okay, well, hey, I'm trying to build. You trying to build. We trying to go to the. You might be doing it through your purpose through God. I'm just doing it through my purpose because I feel like this is what our community needs. Let's come together." And I would love to see that more.
Well,
I would love to see that more. And just say, hey, we just trying to build, and we have a whole entity, and y'all are organization. Let's just come together and not worry about how we align kind of religiously.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we know, but this don't have nothing to do with trying to
tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, tell you what you need to do, but also, it don't, like, what? How does that play into the bigger part? Like, hey, our community is hurting. How do we heal our community?
But see, that goes to the other piece that we're doing with the soldiers and while we were going to church. So now, when I say kingdom, let's just say kingdom, change it to community.
Right.
So what we put together with even MAPS, the books that we did, the curriculum, is we do what we call now a MAPS community leadership program.
Okay.
Because what that looks like is exactly what you're saying. We have to come together to kind of say, hey, how do we fix what's really important? So you can be, the thing is, a lot of people aren't going back to church. So in order for us to actually effectively touch them, we got to get out of these walls and get into communities.
Right.
So with our program, we focus on men, and that's what we've been doing with the MAPS. We have now we're actually on our way to Louisville, and right now we've got a community transformation team.
Okay.
Because what happened was with James Settles, how I found James Settles, Fred Bailey, Lynn Stewart, Dale Caldwell, I really got sick of asking the church to get involved outside the walls. It's like they did good there, but it's just like, man, why am I begging you to do this? And the Lord just kind of told me, I feel like he said, hey, quit begging people to do what you need, what you need to do. And he told me kind of find the strong men. What does that look like? You find the guys that's already doing it. If you find the people that are already doing it, you ain't got to beg them, because I'm gonna do it regardless.
Right.
Hey, if we want to build together, we can. But if you don't, you know what?
Cool. Keep doing your work.
I'm gonna keep doing my work.
Yeah, right.
So I began to look for these strong guys, and even that's with James Settles and his transitional facility, Ephesus House. If you want to check Ephesus out, I work with them. I also work with my friend's house, which is a boys' home, 8 boys in state custody. Where I work with guys. I work at juvenile court. I also work with ALC in Williamson County. When I went to the church and I was talking to the men's group, and I was just like, and the pastor came to me, he said, you know what? He said, I know you really got a heart for this. He said, but my guys, I don't think they're going to, pretty much just said they're not going to do it.
Right.
But let me introduce you to James Settles. He's actually a guy, he has three transitional facilities, served time, found his purpose, and now he helps men get their lives. So that's how I met James. Right. James introduced me to Fred.
Okay.
Fred was the blind, as you know, Fred, I
Right.
think you had shared his story, a blind African-American man that wanted black kids to do better, so he started a school, then he started his own community, turned a crack house into a community center.
Right.
So we just yoked up. Dale Caldwell and Lynn, they've been working with right down the road in juvenile court and all this. You need to get in touch with these guys.
Right.
So consequently, we came together. So now we have what we call community transformation teams, to where we can deal with any demographic and go in and deal with any demographic of men and boys, and really rebuild community. Right. So through MAPS, which is the book which came from the Language of Life, MAP Language Therapy, now we're doing camps, we're doing conferences, and lining up a few things to where we can go in and actually want to start on a mentoring program as well. But this is how we go in, because we feel that if we get the man in the community, if we get him, oh, now we got the wife, we got the kids, because I'm along the lines that if you can, a man, is nothing more, I would say, attractive, not from a looking standpoint, but just but there's nothing more attractive than a man who knows who he is and is in place in his and no,
His core, yeah, know
his
who
co-
he is.
yeah. So no question, he knows
Right.
who he is, and I'm convinced that when you have that, you kind of look at even now. We got a lot of things going on, but I'm like, if you have that, let's just say let's just say my wife.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm really seeking the Lord and I'm in my place, she shouldn't want anything outside of this package right here.
Right.
I'm all the man that, if I'm in my
Right.
place, I'm all the man that a woman really should be able to handle.
Right.
But consequently, because we have not taken our places as men in a lot of society, I ain't talking about black or white or
Right.
whatever. I'm just saying because we don't know who we are, we
Right.
try to fit different images, all these things. Consequently, now women are looking for other options.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now you can't tell me, which my mind can't fathom, how do you have a man who's in his place, but then she broke up with you and now she got a girlfriend.
Right.
What does that say about, something
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So I feel that if we're in our place, a lot of things shouldn't happen.
Right.
So we feel that if we start with the men in the community, build from there, teach them their place, get them to their core and kind of find out, hey, who you are and what your position is. Now, if you have a strong man, now he goes home, you got a strong family.
Right.
Now you got a strong family that can join a church or community movement or whatever. Now you're bringing a strong family into this. Now you got strong families. Now you end up changing the whole neighborhood. Now the neighborhood's changed. Now the community's changed.
No,
now
I-
the community, so
I totally
it grows
agree.
from one man at a time. But
No, I totally agree, and I say this all the time that, especially for black folks, there's a reason why the man was taken out the household.
Yes.
There's still a reason today why for many public housing, the women can't get the public housing if she has a man in there, right? So we see the writing on the wall, but I say the way to build community is you got to start first with the family.
Yes.
And we got to get that right.
we got to
And
get
so,
that right.
which is crucial. And so I got two pillar things I want to throw at you. I'm gonna throw the first one at you right now because it's about family, it's about people.
Mm-hmm.
The LGBTQ plus community,
Yes, sir.
working in churches.
Yeah.
How have you been able to navigate that? Because we have seen in this culture that you have some religious entities that say, okay, hey, that's fine, everybody's welcome.
Right.
And then you have some that use the actual biblical text and say, hey, no, that's a sin.
Right.
Therefore, you're not welcome here. What is your stance on that, and what is your stance as far as just working with the gay community in church and building community at the same time?
Right. My stance is with LGBTQ plus is what it is now.
Yeah, man, it's plus there's a lot of letters being added, but I think now just the LGBTQ plus is the most common.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, like I said, for me personally, I don't have a problem with them as a whole.
Okay.
Now I had to grow to that. You know what I'm saying? Coming up and just being a guy and, manly man, you call yourself or whatever. I had to grow to that. But as I have developed my relationship with the Lord, I realized that, that they people. I think that for me personally, that it's really boiled down to, because I got my stuff too. We all do. Nobody's perfect, So we really, one of the things that we have done a poor job, and I would say definitely even the African American church, is, and I think maybe church as a whole, it's just really how to receive this community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's another thing that we have to do. We have to really learn how to me, on a harmony, the thing that we're talking about, I've learned to where people are people. So I don't do, the black, white, gay, old, all this.
People are people.
People are people,
Right.
and I've had to grow to that realization to where the truth of the matter is we have they have gifts, they have things that they bring to the table as well.
Right.
Because you really look at even that community and how they're growing and expanding and, and really flourishing. The truth of the matter is my convictions have come down to, I really can't control another person. Me controlling myself is a handful every day. You can ask my wife that, what I'm saying. But me really trying to control myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that as you come into Christ, I think, and I encourage people to always come into Christ because that's what helped me. But I think that I have what I call the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit deals with me on stuff that I need to fix.
Right.
You know, so consequently, even as these individuals, whether it be we're dealing with racism or with LGBT or whatever we're dealing with, I think that as they become closer to whatever that, you know, I would say the Holy Spirit, but whatever their inner voice or that good thing inside of them,
Right.
that's for them to deal with, you know.
Right.
So I've come because that's really the indictment to why people don't want to. This whole generation doesn't want to fool with us, is because we haven't known how to handle them. So I
Right.
think that for me, I think that you want to see you want to see healing, you know. So if you go to the Bible, it talks about if my people, Christians. I say this all the time. I say Christians, we're the biggest problems it is out there to what's going on, but we're also the answers.
Right.
The answer to the problem.
Okay.
So it says, if my people, Christians who are called by my name, will seek my face, you know, humble themselves, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land. Our land is sick, you know. But even in that verse of scripture in Second Chronicles, it kind of talks about if you would humble yourselves. I really think that we, as a society, in a lot of different areas, we owe this generation an apology. You know, we need to say, you know, I think it's a lot of areas, whether it be politicians, how we handle political views,
Right.
how we've handled each other as people. You know, the police department, we got some bad eggs, some bad actors there, you know, to kind of say, hey, man, we didn't handle this thing right. The white community, they just say, hey, man, you know what? Man, we didn't, you know, man, we did some things, some awful things. You know, we got a history here. Even in our community, saying, I'm sorry to our church, these young black boys, as we see crime and different things going on, black men that have made it out and have been successful and doing better. We need, hey, man, I'm sorry, bro. You know, I know you wasn't raised without a father.
Right.
You know, and or whatever, because we're the most fatherless generation that we ever had. And I'll say this, and it just dawned on me. I had my dad my whole life. Day one, great
Right.
father, great. So that really gave me my foundation.
Yeah, me
It
too,
Really
me
not,
too.
You know what I'm saying? And you can see it with guys that had
Yeah.
their father in their
Right.
life. So it has a confidence. There's
Right.
an affirmation that you just gonna have that your boys.
Right.
You see it all the time. But one of the things when I got saved and I came into the church, and I remember like being a young man trying to get older people to kind of take me in. I remember going to the leadership of the church and just saying, man, I never felt like a bastard till I came into the church. Because they didn't know how to handle me. You know what I'm saying? I'm a street dude. You know,
Right.
I'm rough as a
Right.
corn cob, man. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You know, and lie, you know, whatever.
Right.
Do you think that they provoked them to kind of say, well, man, let me take this young boy got something.
Right.
No, it didn't. So what happened, and I just realized over the past few years, is I went through all of the abandonment issues that a young man gets without a father, but I did it in the spirit. And what that looked like is, man, I'm in church. These dudes, don't nobody want to take me into that. I'm telling you, I got like 40 boys. I'm 27 years old. I got 40 boys.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I need some men to come down here and teach us how to.
Right.
I really don't know what I'm doing myself.
Right. You
So-
just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during my figuring out, the men in the church, the deacons, the elders, all these preachers didn't want to come help me. So what I do like they did. I got resentful. I'm like, man, forget them then. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm gonna raise myself. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna start doing what I need to do, and that's
Right.
really how I started doing stuff. But I didn't know that it had built a bitterness in me, because I'm like, don't nobody want to the same rejection issues that I get that you get.
Yeah. You took it personal.
I took it personal. So I'm like, forget y'all, man. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna find somebody who want to do
Right.
this, and that's really how I started.
Right.
But I've had to go back and deal with that forgiveness, because that root of bitterness, why
Right.
our young black men or me and young boys are angry because daddy wasn't there. I had to do the same thing, because I'm
Right.
like, if I don't fix this, man, I'm gonna be forget the church.
Right.
But the church, I still feel like, man, we could really do this
Right.
if we get ourselves together. But you
Right.
know, so it's key that we father this generation.
Right.
And sometimes fathering looks like, man, I messed up. Daddy messed up.
Right.
Man, you know, me and mom.
Admitting
you know,
it. Yeah, you just had to admit. Yeah.
And that's a starting point.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say I'm sorry, get out of my face.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Just admit that you was wrong.
You was
Just go
wrong.
with that.
And it's a lot of admittance that America needs to do. A lot
Man.
of people that these
Man.
politicians, there's a lot of, and then, when you apologize to us as a people,
Right.
then we can say, okay, well, let's
We're
try to.
we're moving in the right direction. We're moving in a good direction.
But don't nobody want to say I'm sorry.
What's fascinating to me too is where you do your work. And so, I was born and raised in the city of Nashville.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yourself, Nashville native. So you don't really hear about what's going on like in Franklin, Tennessee, and Williamson County, those things, because one, you already think like, them people got money out there. They ain't going through the same issues we have. This
Right.
like it's different, right?
Absolutely.
It's different.
Totally.
And so, what kind of inspires you to kind of, and I understand the importance too of your work being out there, but I want you to walk us through it.
Right.
Of what inspires you to like kind of center your work in that Franklin, Tennessee, Williamson County area versus doing it where you see the majority of people doing this type of work, especially for boys, black men, black
Right.
boys in the inner city.
Right. Funny story. I'd always been doing the work, but I always volunteered. I'd find a church to volunteer or a group of men, and with it, I remember it was about 8 years ago, a guy, one of the soldiers, Jimmy Hanley, came by and he actually had started working with inner city in Franklin, and he came to me, inner city youth. So he came to me. I was working in Nordstrom, so I had always volunteered doing it, but nobody ever paid me to do it. This is just my passion.
Right.
And Jimmy said, "Man, I've been looking for you for 2 years." I'm like, "Really?" He's just like, "Man," he said, "Man, I work with this little organization in Franklin. We work with inner city youth," and I'm like, "Inner city youth in Franklin?" I'm like, "Dude, in other words, get out of here, man."
In the city.
Yeah, in the city, So he said, "Man, just come look at it." So I went and looked, and I became the program director for that particular nonprofit.
Wow.
Called Franktown Open Hearts, and they fed the kids 5 times a week. They got them Christmas gifts. They helped families. They ended up, even when kids graduate, they were getting them cars. And I was just like, these folks doing it, And they actually were partnered with a church called 4th Avenue Church of Christ, one of the largest churches. Church of Christ churches.
Yeah, Church of Christ.
Yeah, in that area. So all white, And at the time, Patrick Meade was the pastor. And he saw how I was helping the kids in the community and doing different things, Jimmy and myself. And he said, "Will you come over here and help us? Because we need some help with racial reconciliation." And it was actually after the couple of African American men that killed 2 policemen in Dallas. And they were just like, "I can't believe they shot 2 police officers.
Right.
I can't do." And I was like, "Well, you didn't say nothing when they were shooting them black boys."
Right.
And they be like, "I can't believe you said that." Well,
Right.
Yes, I did.
Right.
So that's where they would be like, "Well, Lamont, I just don't understand." I said, "Well, we can talk about it." So from there, we had families kind of saying, "Hey, will you come over here and help us,
Right.
talk through the deep dish conversations
Right.
over dinner?" So my wife and I. So that's where it began. But really, from there, I went to the YMCA. They opened up a position, YMCA Community Action Project.
Okay.
YCAP. And they said, "Man, we saw what you did over here with this church and this nonprofit. Can you come over here and help us?" So then I went to the YMCA. And when I did get to Franklin, I did see that those same African American communities had the same problems that we had. It was like the African American community in Franklin was really poor.
Right.
Just grew up in Franklin, second, third generation
Right.
poverty, and they just had the systemic concerns and was stuck. They
Right.
didn't know how to get out because now they in this world.
Right.
Everybody's flourishing but them. So this is a whole poor community.
Wow.
When I went to work with the YMCA, and I work with juvenile court and ALC. Now this is all white. I started
Right.
working with the ALC, and I was going to the ALC, and I'm like, "This all white kids in here."
Right.
And I saw that the same issues that the black kids had was a lot of the white kids had.
Right.
Now, they didn't have the money problems, but daddy was out making moves, doing such stuff.
Right.
And even as you've seen some of these racist tendencies that we've seen in Williamson County on the news, man, you can imagine these kids are off the chain.
Right.
Just because they got money,
Right.
man, they see mama act the fool. She's a
Right.
racist.
Right.
Systemic racism has gone. They a lifestyle that they've So I realized that a lot of these white kids, now the thing is, the black kids, they were behavior, but the white kids, they were drugs because they had access to the money to get the pills, the Zeds, and you go
Right.
and you talking to kids, some of them, 5th, 6th grade, been in rehab, yeah, I mean, it was just like just stories that you
Right.
like, how'd you get, man, you ain't number 12 years old.
Right.
But they got that access.
Right.
So that access and that privilege and not being told no,
Right.
man, they off the chain.
Right.
So consequently, I was like, both parties need to need some help, support.
Right.
So I didn't know that I was being groomed to do all this work, and then we hooked up with the ALC,
Right.
and then my friend's house, which is a boys' home in Franklin, and started working with those guys. Still work with them today, and it just really I blossomed there. But when I look back, I kind of look at the point of the Lord. I think He really financed me to go to school and learn how to do all this stuff.
Right.
And when I got finished, I was just like, a lot of these white folks really don't know how to help our young black boys.
Right.
I could do better. Not that they're not doing a great work, but I'm like, some stuff,
Right.
you need, Big Mama told us, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And our community taught us that you need black people to teach you a lot of this stuff. And
Because it lived experience.
Yeah,
lived experience,
yeah,
culture. So
yeah.
a lot of stuff.
I appreciate your help,
Yeah,
but you know what?
Yeah, no, it's just that's just the way it just.
That's real.
It's just real life.
Yeah.
It's just like it's hard for. We talked about it earlier. It's hard for, if I ain't never done prison time, it's hard for me to tell you, one, how to do prison time, or two, how to assimilate back to society once you get out. If
Absolutely.
I haven't done it. I might can help you. I might know some things, but it might be way more impactful if somebody who served, then kind of rehabilitated, changed, came from that same thing, and y'all can have different type of conversations. It's just the truth.
And that's why I love Settles and the work at Ephesus House, because if you really think about it, you already know, think about people in our community are starting their lives over, or have a record, or have the deck stick against them.
Right.
They do a great job of taking a man from ground floor zero. Man,
Right.
I've been locked up 25 years. They give me a bag and I walk out, and everything's changed.
Right.
They take that man from there and they get him back into society.
That's
and,
amazing.
And nobody does it better.
That's amazing. You can't never have too much of that.
No.
You can't have too much of that.
No.
And so now it's really. I'm glad. I want to come out there and see some of their work in Franklin.
Please do, man.
Because again,
And
like,
Ephesus House is in Madison.
and Epsom House is in Madison.
Yes, sir.
I'm an explorer. I like to see different things in different communities and how they may look different, how they may look the same. But also just understanding, like there's need to be work too in these suburban areas too.
Absolutely.
With youth, black youth, and they might might not be in the city things, but they still have issues, and they still have to face the same social constructs as all black people or all youth or all black boys and men have to go through, and it might just look a little different. And
Yes.
I think it'd just be education for anybody that got the opportunity just to go out there and look and see what that looks like and see what their works look like too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that was really fascinating. I'm like, man, he doing this work out in Franklin? Man, what is, man? They got these, you know what I'm saying? Everybody got some issues, but it's like,
Right.
but the work is always focused on the inner city a lot of times. But I think it's important to have folks like yourself doing it in other areas, to fill that void there too, because there's kids, there's youth everywhere, and there's youth that get into some things they shouldn't even get into. So
Right.
I'm glad you're doing that work, and I'm glad that you're out there filling that void, because if it wasn't you, maybe it wouldn't be getting done.
Yeah, but let me put this out there too. I'm desirous of coming to Nashville, to bring it to Nashville. So the thing is, the platforms weren't available here. I know a lot of people, we talk about how they'll throw money at a problem, to kind of say, well, we're going to do this. I'm like, man, if we brought our team to Nashville, it should give us the money. We just
Right.
haven't had the opportunity. So my
Right.
stuff was really volunteer.
Right.
So they paid me to go to Franklin, and
Right.
we did that, and we just saw the transformation of the different entities that we were working with. And now it's like Louisville, they I have a contact in Louisville,
Oh, wow.
and they just like, man, can you come up here? So
Wow.
we're actually going to start our work there. But I want to come to Nashville, so
Right.
like, hey, whether it be the mayor, whether it be
Right.
Governor Lee or whatever,
Right.
we put things in place to where, because my thing is, find the people that are doing it, and you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But anybody, can get on racial reconciliation when the house is on fire.
Right.
Anybody can talk about what's going on with the boys in our community when you ain't got, when
Right.
everything's burnt down. How do you
Right.
put it back together? My thing is, if we had some of these foundational things in place with the harmony, the racial
Right.
reconciliation components, the teams that we put together, if we had actually got on our communities earlier, now we wouldn't be in the situation we're in.
Always doing the work.
The house is burnt down now.
Always doing.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'm for that. Doing the work. It's every day, right? It's like flossing, right? You don't floss once a month or once a year and say I'm gonna avoid cavities. No, you have to floss every single day and night in order to prevent, the likeliness of you getting cavities and, your teeth just falling out. And I think that's what it is. That's how I view like community work. Like you can't do it when, like you said, the house is on fire when shit is just going down.
Yes.
Like you gotta do it when things look like it's great.
That's it.
Because like, hey, this summer's always around the corner.
Another black man gonna get killed.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be something.
It's gonna be something.
Yeah,
And so we need to already be ready, so we have to get ready.
Yeah.
And so I want to end off with, you got your book. I want to talk more about your book.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk more about like what's next.
Okay.
So we can you got your book here, The Language of Life. Tell us a little bit about that.
The language of life.
LOL.
LOL, man, I laugh. LOL. I gotta enjoy a good laugh, a
Right,
good joke. I
right.
got a sense of humor. And with the LOL, I laugh all the time. Really, it's like laughing because I really wrote a book. It's funny because that's a joke within itself. And it's funny too, Gerard. Because now you meet people, they be like, just being candid, they be like, from the hood. Let's just go deep.
Right.
This nigga wrote a book. You know what I'm saying? In other words, they don't say it, but they be like,
right,
this dude did.
He wrote a book.
Yeah. It's funny, and I'm just like, it's all good. But it actually was supposed to be a curriculum. I wanted to write a curriculum for young men because I had been doing this work with mentoring and read all types of curriculums for young men and boys, and I was just like, man, I want to write something where it deals with a little bit more on the social emotional learning side, something more practical that people can absorb.
Right.
And so in 2 years ago, when in March, when the pandemic hit 2020, I ended up getting laid off from the furlough for a few months from the YMCA. So at that particular time, it was like nobody knew what was going on, the uncertainty. And my wife was just like, she said, you at home? She said, you always said you wanted to do it, and you couldn't do it because the job was on the way, or this was. She said, you ain't got nowhere to be, so you still getting paid.
Right.
Shit, why don't you, she took these pieces of paper. She said, why don't you do what you said you was gonna do?
Wow.
So
accountability.
But the ego is like, the man like, oh, man, she think I just talking, in other words. So it's kind of like, how it is. Sometimes you need a little extra encouragement,
right?
But I'm like, she think I'm playing,
Right.
Man, it's so funny, man. It's amazing what what a woman can inspire you to do.
Hey, for sure.
But
The right one.
Yeah, the right one, because Will Smith got inspired too. But you know what I'm saying. But you can be inspired, what I'm saying. So I wrote the whole thing in one night, man. I wrote the map, the map component. So the map component is really, when I talk about the language of life just kind of talks about life and give you a language, and as you get into different things, I think you kind of touched on it, which you said it perfectly. We kind of talked about the LGBTQ plus, and there's some more letters coming.
Right.
When we were growing up, it was just lesbian and gay.
Right.
But what happened as life goes on and you see different things, there are different words that are created due to circumstances of life.
Right.
Being from a biblical perspective, so I have it to where I can actually teach this concept, whether it be from a church, so secular perspective or a Christian perspective.
Right.
But from a Christian perspective, with Adam and Eve, the story, whatever. When Adam ate of the apple that Eve gave him, and he ate, he said, I hid and I was naked because I was ashamed. God said, well, who told you was naked? And he's like, so that goes to the point of nakedness they hadn't even gone over the class of nakedness in that capacity when he told God, man, I hid because I was naked. God like, oh, who told you that? I didn't teach you that.
Right.
So that means that life, something, you know, the
Right.
circumstance of exposure really created a new word. So this here we talk about as life. When you draw your map language therapy is a process, a tool where we sit down and we draw a actual map of your journey. And it kind of talks about the different communities that you spend time in. For me, in my book, I talk about Shame Street. You know, I spent a lot of time on Shame Street from dumb decisions that I made.
Right.
You know, but then you got Anger Alley, you got Confusion Court, you got Healing Highway, you have Rebellion Ridge. You know, but even as you're going through life, you got ISO Islands. That's when you just isolated away from everybody, and you don't want to be. You know, so. Once you actually begin to develop this language and we talk about the things and we go back to, you know, this book allowed me to go back through my experiences and put a language with it. What it allowed me to do is really take the sting out of my journey. You know, it went from, you know, these painful things that happened to where you realize all this stuff didn't happen to you, it happened for you. You know, without these things, without going through Anger Alley, without resentment. We kind of talked about resentment from a spiritual perspective. You know, man, ain't nobody gonna take a brother in. You know, the bitterness block. You know.
So you giving people, you know, some navigation skills.
Yes, absolutely.
As a map, you gotta learn how to navigate.
Yeah.
Where can people grab the book? How can people get the book?
Amazon, anywhere. It's on all your platforms. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. LOL, LamontLester.com. You can actually order from there. So it's on on all the platforms as well.
How can people reach out to you if they wanna work, they wanna get you to speak, they wanna learn more about, you know, your model programs? How can people get out to you?
I would just say email me. Actually, you can find me on Facebook. You know, it's where you can DM me on Facebook. That's
Lamont Lester.
Lamont Lester. Or I'm on Instagram as well. So that will probably be the best way to just reach out as well. And then email address lamontlester@outlook.com. You know, but with it, would love to come out and share. You know, and I'll say this: even we talk about the bitterness block. That's a block where, you know, on my map that I spent some time, but I think a lot of our people, African American community, are on the bitterness block. You know, we just live there. We got $600,000-$700,000 homes, you know, on the block, and this is where we live because of things that have been done. And the language of life, my whole job is to allow people, you know, to come in to help people unpack, and really allow them and unlock them to be able to go on a journey and find better communities and neighborhoods to live in.
Mr. Lamont Lester, I appreciate your time. And I didn't tell you this before, I'm gonna tell you now. You know, Lamont is my middle name.
And
so, you know,
that's my son's middle name.
Yeah, so we got it's my middle name, my son's middle name, my daddy's middle name.
I love
it. Both my brothers' middle name. He named all of us Lamont.
Middle
name Lamont. So,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, so we connected with the Lamont.
Yes, sir.
For sure. We're gonna fist pump. We just tried to do that. Y'all didn't see that on camera.
They didn't see that.
But I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
And we gotta have you back because I want to unpack a lot of more stuff that you said in your own personal story too, and really, you know, see what Shame Street look like. What does that mean for you? And so we're gonna get deeper next time. So get ready. This was just the introduction, y'all. This is just the introduction. So I appreciate your time. Thank you. And I appreciate the work that you're doing because you don't have to do it. And so thank you for that work that you're doing, and just not the Black American community, but all communities in Middle Tennessee. So thank you. Give your flowers right now while you're still here, and just keep doing the work.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me, man. It's a blessing. I'm honored to be here, man. And you know my contacts, and we want to keep it going.
For sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, till next time.
All right, appreciate it.